If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And how happy could you possibly be? Happier than you are right now by virtue of the fact that you are here with the Animation Truman Show. There is no better place in the world to be. Well, before we start, let's have 10 seconds of silence for the people of the Ukraine. The Ukraine? I guess it's not really the Ukraine, it's Ukraine without an article. 10 seconds. Yeah, because that situation sucks in a big way. But here we are in the US of A, moving forward with things that by comparison don't really seem very important, but life does go on. So, hopefully, I should actually check my channel and make sure this is live at the moment. Make sure everything is working. It looks like it is. Okay, cool. So we have 2 concurrent viewers. Welcome, whoever you are. Identify yourself. Identify yourself. What are we going to do? Well, hopefully you have seen Salt and Light Webisode 3, because I released that 2 days ago. Can't say the number of views are quite what I would hope, but the feedback's quite positive, and you know, we're just moving forward. We've got 2 more webisodes to do, this one and this one, before we can go back and start, well, frankly, pulling them back off YouTube and then forwarding the assets to our film distributor, and then moving forward with episode 2. Whether that's going to continue to be webisodes, I think it will. I think we're just going to keep doing what we're doing because it's nothing but fun. And so earlier today, I knocked out this shot. Basically, Mel was a little off character from a fairly old legacy shot, you know, from quite a few, many months ago, kind of thing. And so there we are. There's Melchizidek doing what he does. And I probably will wind up actually punching up the ink lines on the close-up there. That seems a little light to me. But what I think I'm going to work on tonight is, let me just keep going forward here. The same thing with this shot. I think maybe this could be, the contrast could be punched up a little bit. But basically, it's looking okay. So this shot is what I want to work on. I'd like to add a little bit more tweening. Pretty simple shot. But anyway, that's what I'm going to work on. So, unfortunately, not the wonderful, glamorous delight of, you know, starting clean with a pencil test. But we're kind of in the mode of taking stuff that's already, you know, been done some time ago and just kind of pounding it into shape. I have my tasty beverage, and I am ready to rock. So, what do we have here? We've got a layer. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Looks like in this old shot, it looks like I put the paint. Yeah, I do not remember doing this, but okay. So the paint is all on its own layer. That's good. As I like to call it, I'm doing it the Ed Tadeo way, where I keep things on separate layers. That's usually the best practice. Okay, so one thing I'm seeing here is on this first keyframe, it looks like the only thing that changes here is his eyes, and then here we've got a 1-frame tween. So that tween there doesn't matter too much because it's just blurring by pretty fast, right? What I was more concerned about is this bit where when he drops. I think we need one more tween in there to get from here to here. That's what I'm thinking. So it looks like this is all just the mouth. mouth, I said. Okay, that's interesting. So I turn off the mouse. So this is normally part of the process. I sort of have to reorient myself to the shots. And I'm wondering, oh, I see. You know what? I got to tell you guys, I actually don't know what these little icons do. I turned this off instead. Oh, it looks like it pins it. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. Okay, I want to say, I'm going to actually jump in here and say kudos to the Krita developers. I know what this does. I'm sure I know what this does. And I don't remember seeing this in earlier versions of Krita. So this is, of course, Krita 5 beta 1, I believe. I'm not using the official versions because I just kind of found them to be buggier than the betas. So no big deal. We'll see when 5.1 comes out. But I'm pretty sure what these icons do right here is they pin the layer to the timeline. So if I add another layer, normally what I've seen with Krita 5 is your first layer when you open a new scene, we can test it actually. Let's go ahead and create a new scene. Okay, this layer is probably not pinned. Ah, it is. So that's kind of weird. I'm gonna attribute that to another Krita 5 weirdness, because in working with Krita 5, usually I've run into many situations where I've sort of found out to my surprise that the default pinning of the layers to the timeline wasn't happening. And what I was finding was if you added a new layer, you would discover that the new ones would be pinned, but the original background layer wouldn't. So it looks like this Krita Beta 5, well, there you go, right there it is. If I click on background, it shows up here, but if I click here, it disappears here. So now this is interesting, and actually this could fairly be called a bug as well, unless I just turned this off. But look, when I click that, pin it to the timeline, see what happened over here? I think that's a good idea, putting an icon there. Because if you don't have stuff pinned to the timeline, then whenever you select the layers, they show up in the timeline. So then to be able to just go click right there and have it pinned is a really good idea. So I like that. I do like it. So I'm going to say it again. Who's here? I got to think if it was Maria Torres, she would have said hello. So I'm thinking there's 2 other people here, and I don't know who they are. Okay, so what are we going to do then? Well, when I look at the video edit, I will say that the initial pose, the lines are a little weak, but oh, I see what's going on. Okay, this is just a little point of fact, is that this shot in the show, it looks to me like the first pose, which you see here, actually didn't even make it into the show. So I don't really need to spend any time on this pose because it's not even in the edit. It actually, it looks to me like the shot got cropped. But that's a bit strange. So let's grok this out a little bit. Why would I have done that? Let me look back here. Go back to the edit. Because I like the idea of his eyes sort of scanning across the page the way they were. So with that in mind, I'm going to push this. Okay, now I have to hit undo. So I want to push this way and hit Control-Shift-F and see if I'm correct. So I'm not sure why I pulled that out. That's kind of weird. But let's ripple edit that and put it back in and see if that's... Oh, I see why. I think I see why I did it that way. It's because monkey runs off, like there. Ah, yeah, I definitely want the turn of the eyes in there, for sure. Okay, cool. So now we know what to do. Let's go back here. I want to do a little bit of liquefy, so the A key and then liquefy. And I'm going to grab the whole group, because basically what I want to do is just get this under control a little bit. His hair is a little bit distended. So I'll say it again. Who the heck is out there? Somebody's watching and nobody's saying hello. I just think that's rude. You gotta say hello, people. Give me a reason to be here, you know? Alright, So that takes care of that. And then it's just the eyes. So I would also say, here's the ink. Okay, the ink has a color adjustment. Let me see what that is. Ah, the original ink lines were too bold. And so what I was actually going to do would be accomplished by turning this off. But what I want to do is split the difference. So I'm going to grab the color adjustment and hit F3. Yet another hotkey that was, I think in the latest Krita 4 versions, they had broken this hotkey, and now they brought it back. For a while there, you had to right mouse click and select properties. They had gotten rid of the default hotkey of F3. So I'm glad to see that's back in there. Don't think I made it quite bold enough though. So let's go back here. Pull it down all the way. Why? Oh, why, friends? Does it seem to not be making a difference when I... Krita, are you acting silly? Let's take this all the way down. Let's just do a reset. If we do a reset, it shouldn't make any difference. And yet what we're seeing here is, look, the lines are still getting darker. Even when I turn the color adjustment off. Okay, Krita, what the heck are you doing here? Ah, that's what it is. Okay, so I punched a little more red into it. So what did we just learn? We just learned, hey, Tiny Salad, good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. So what we just learned, actually, is that when you hit reset on the curves tool, there we go. There's the issue. It doesn't reset everything. You have to go in and reset the channels one by one. Now, personally, I would say that's actually not a bad thing. That's actually probably a good thing. So what I really want to do here is probably push up the lightness. Yeah, you can see what that does. So probably push up the lightness maybe to something like that. Not too much. And then I'll go ahead and say, let's go ahead and give some of the red back. Okay, so by doing that, our ink lines are a little bit bolder, and so that means I don't have to go through and do a bunch of drawing on the ink lines to punch them up. So that's good. All right, let's hit the go button and just let this play back. Yeah, I just want another tween in there, and then this shot will probably be, I would say, good to go. Another thing maybe to think about would be right here. That's interesting. His eyes are kind of looking down. Oh, okay. See, I see. They're down and then they come up. I don't know if that's actually necessary. But let's just see how it flows. Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying that. Okay, so in the show edit, what I just did was I put back in 8 frames that had been taken out. What I'm thinking is we want to go ahead and take this and let's look at the eyes. It does not look like the eyes. Well, let's solo the eyes layer. That must be something that was from back here. Yes, it's from back here. So the eyes are actually not even part of it here. So that means that the movement of his pupils is actually just baked into this layer here. Yep, it's baked into the ink. So here's what we're going to do, friends. We're going to take this keyframe from where his eyes settled. This is where his eyes ended up. They're looking out this way. We're going to take this keyframe and drag it back to here. And Krita really isn't behaving itself because there we go. So I had to refresh it. So there we go. So now his eyes are looking in the right direction. These 2 keyframes can certainly be deleted. And then what we'll do is we'll use Krita's. Krita's got the ability to do essentially a ripple edit. I'm going to take out maybe 5 frames. So what I'm going to do is right mouse click, and we're going to remove frame and pull. That's gonna, well, it should. Okay, that's interesting. Did that quite work the way it was? I think it did. So let's hit play again and see if it's actually playing back correctly. We do not want this. This is one of the problems with Krita 5 is it's not very smart about understanding what you're trying to do in terms of playback. You know, if you want to select a playback range like this to loop, it often kind of does it for you without you quite really wishing it would. So, no big deal. Okay, there we go. So that took care of that. Save our work. And Tiny Salad says, good morning. So here it's 7:15 in the evening. So where are you at, Tiny Salad? Are you over in on the other side of the world? I'm guessing you must be. Where are you at, Tiny Salad? I'm trying to think. It's been a while since you've been around. Are you in you know, like Russia or one of those, Ukraine, one of those places? I'm trying to think whether I remember you being. I remember we've had some discussions, you know, about the world of politics here, and can't remember if you were one of the guys that had some pretty strong opinions about some things. That's not, you know, not a good thing. Oh, you're in Finland. Oh my gosh, I was hearing a lot about Finland today in the news, in terms of Finland talking about switching from neutrality to NATO. So. You know, this is a wide open forum here, and I love to get the opinions of all kinds of different people. So, if you as a Finn have any kind of opinion about what's going on, feel free to weigh in the comments. I would actually love to hear your perspective, because I think the people that are, you know, on the ground in the countries that are involved, obviously their perspective is probably a lot more valuable and balanced than what we get in the news, you know. So, but that's what I heard. What I heard was Finland is talking about switching from a neutrality position to a looking at getting involved in NATO. So, I mean, I think the general consensus over here is certainly. Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, I'll tell you exactly what the perspective is over here. I'll give you my perspective. Generally speaking, I would say, without a doubt, Americans are totally rooting for Ukraine and find the whole situation deplorable. I take it even a step further, and my opinion is this. I kind of relate it to dealing with climate change in a way. And this is what I mean by that. When you think about climate change, okay, either it's happening or it's not, and I think whether humans are causing it or not is almost irrelevant, because the key issue is the climate changing? And if it is, how is that affecting us? And okay, what are we going to do about it? Right? And whether we are causing it is very important, because obviously that informs who needs to change their behavior or whatever. Okay, but the point I'm getting, how it relates to the war situation, is that you're talking about something that the consequences of it are becoming clearer and clearer and clearer every day, every month, every year, and all we're doing is putting off what, you know, changes that we're going to have to make anyway. And it's going to turn out that after all the damage is done, we're going to look back and go, well, we wound up having to do the same thing we could have done 5 years ago, but we didn't because we just kept procrastinating. That's the way I see this war. Everybody's saying, ooh, we're so scared of Vladimir Putin. Oh, we're so afraid he's going to use nukes. As long as he can do whatever he wants to do, not that he's doing a great job of it in Ukraine, that's for sure, because not everything is going Russia's way, but as long as the entire will of the world is that the basic reason why we're not taking a stronger stand on the situation is because of the threat of nukes, I think that's stupid, because, you know, the guy's going to just keep doing it. He's just going to, you know, it worked last time, so it'll work this time kind of thing. I mean, that's my opinion. I could be totally wrong. You know, I don't profess to be an expert, but that's the way I see it. I find it frustrating the level of involvement that we are not engaging in this situation, because I just don't really have a lot of tolerance for what's being done to the people over there. So, yeah, I mean, again, that's my opinion. Other people may have a different view, and I'm always open to a different view because, frankly, other people's view may be much better informed than mine. Okay. Oh, man. That's the problem with the rotate tool in Liquify is it is really hard to only make a teeny weeny change. So I'm just going to go just like that. I hardly move the mouse at all. Okay, so that may have done the trick. I'm just trying to smooth that tween out. Let's see what happens. Yeah, absolutely. That did it. That did the trick. Okay, so Amar, I would say what Ukraine is not totally on the up and up based on how they're treating people trying to leave their country. They're not treating all people the same way. That has been certainly a hot topic, especially the last few days. It's been a topic we've been hearing about more. I will say that the way that topic came up in the news coverage that I've heard, and I'm looking at a broad range of things. I mean, I'm actually I'm checking in with Russian sources like RT because the basic Russian party line story about what's going on, it's good to hear what they're saying, like what their story is. Okay. But what I sensed happening in the news was that about 5 days ago, we started hearing this where it was a really good talking point, okay? So I'm not saying it's not valid, but I'm saying that from the standpoint of a news outlet, it was a valuable talking point to, keep the conversation going and keep the eyeballs on the screen so that you get your advertising revenue. So that's a little bit of a cynical attitude, admittedly. But anyway, what I saw happening was now what we're going to do is we're going to complain that some reporters have referred to the people of Ukraine as being white, middle class, and so basically they're like us is the vibe. They're like us. And because they're like us, so that's been criticized because, well, wait a minute, the people from Syria weren't spoken about that way, and we weren't, and the way, or Afghanistan, and anybody who criticizes that, I agree with them. People are people, man. It doesn't matter what color your skin is or what your religion is. It's completely irrelevant to me. So I think that a double standard in how people are treated in terms of refugees and whatnot, I totally agree that it's wrong to have a double standard. But that's what I noticed in the news was that became a thing we can talk about now. About 5 days ago, it started to be more of a topic. So. But I have been hearing more about it, again, the last couple days about some disparity in terms of how refugees are being treated and whatnot, in terms of leaving the country and blah, blah, blah. So Tiny Salad says, you're not a big fan of Putin. Kind of surprised he's still in charge, honestly. Especially with the Africans. Well, right. And Amar, I would, being a man of color, I would expect you to have probably a more, that's a touchier issue for you than it is for, an entitled white guy like me. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. I am an entitled white guy. I have an easy life and people don't really screw with me because I'm 6'3" and 200 pounds and built pretty well and, and I'm white. So, the whole thing about race and to me that's a hard topic for me. I hate it. I mean, I think I'm as colorblind as I can be. I dearly love my son's wife and she's black, so she's a total sweetheart. Anyway, we're all entitled in some ways in America. That's true. That is true. I mean, we're really, really lucky. We are very, very, very freaking safe on this side of the world. There's no doubt about it. I'll be honest with you. It did occur to me the other day, about 3 days ago, it occurred to me, There is a small part of me, as much as I really don't like Donald Trump, there was a small part of me that said, I really wonder if Donald Trump was president right now, if he would be having this conversation with Putin that sounds something like this. You know what, Vlad? Do whatever the fuck you want to do, buddy. I'm 75 years old. My life's over anyway. Yours is going to be over soon. But you know what? If you step over the line, I'm going to blow your ass off the planet and take the rest of your country with it. And if you want to go nuke, go for it, buddy. I dare you. I have a feeling there's a part of me that really wonders if that's not what would have happened. And by contrast, I'm big on consensus, especially in the big picture and in the long run. Consensus and a collectivist mentality in the world is very, very, very important. But at the same time, there's a part of you that says, man, when things heat up and, the poop's starting to fly, you really want a strong leader that people, frankly, are afraid of. Because really, that's what you got with Putin. Everybody's afraid. Oh, he's going to use his nukes. Oh, we're so scared. So we'll just let him do it. And maybe he'll be like Hitler and he'll only take one country. Maybe that's what he'll do because he's not that bad of a guy. And, he had some bad breaks in the past. And so maybe we should feel sorry for him and let him go ahead and have Ukraine. Like he had Crimea or whatever. And again, we're not talking about the fact that there aren't people in those countries, especially in the eastern side of Ukraine, that sympathize with Russia, because there are. And frankly, from the very start, the whole recognition of those territories as independent countries, in terms of a negotiation, I think that's a conversation that's worth having. If that's what the people in those territories want, then it's certainly something that merits consideration under, the right set of circumstances, right? But what we're seeing in Ukraine, and I am quite convinced that the rhetoric that's coming out of the Kremlin is just plain, we're just making shit up, man. We're just making it up, man. That's all we're doing. We're just telling a story that's, they're just, you guys get what I'm trying to say. It's just beyond the pale of credibility. Okay, so what we need to do now, by the way, is save our work, and then we're going to render shot number 239, and I think we're good to go on this shot for now. I may come back to it again later, but I think what we'll do is we'll get this rendered and then go over to the timeline and see if there's more. And I agree with you, Amar. He talks tough, but he's all about the dollar. And more so, he's all about himself. Because, and I agree with you. I agree it's all a show, too. I have very little respect for Donald Trump. The point in what I'm saying, giving a little tiny bit of credence to a guy like Trump, is recognizing that a guy like Putin, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is, and this is true of all of us in our creative lives, when you think about creating whatever you're working on right now in the animation space, for example, when you think about your goal, let's bring this home and actually make it make sense for us here as animators. We all have goals, right? There's something we want to achieve. We want to make a little difference in the world. We want to entertain people, maybe. We want to be able to maybe make money doing something we love. Okay? These things are important, and they're very important to people. Well, Vladimir Putin is no different. In fact, one of the errors that I do believe Ukraine, at least from what I've heard, one of the errors that's been made so far is that Ukraine has not come to the table the way you need to come to the table when you're going to negotiate and actually come up with something useful. Which is to say, they should be coming to the table asking for $1 trillion in reparations, immediate withdrawal, 100% across the board, for Putin to step down from power. They should be coming up with a ridiculous laundry list that's 10 times, even maybe 10 orders of magnitude, beyond what they could ever actually hope to get in a negotiation, because they need to have stuff they can take back off the table and give away, right? That is how you negotiate. And they have not been doing that as far as I can tell. They're basically saying, well, you guys need to quit attacking us and leave. And that's not a very strong negotiation position. It's not to say that a different approach would have been more effective, because I think they are dealing with somebody who basically feels like they've got them by the balls. And it may take a while, but, they're probably going to lose at the end of the day. Hopefully not, but okay, so let me get back focused here, and we need to set this to 239. Boom, 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 239. But we all have goals. My point is that we have goals. Okay? Vladimir Putin has a set of goals. And, you know, we probably have a pretty good idea of what they are, but I mean, you know, I don't know right offhand exactly what all of them are or why he has them. Okay, so these are, I'm looking at the other screen to see if these are pings, and they are. So I should get a warning, and we did, so that's good. So when you have a goal, what is the most important question that you have to ask about whether you probably will or probably won't achieve the goal? The question is, do you really, in your heart of hearts, believe that you're going to achieve the goal? Because if you believe you're going to, you will take the action steps that tend to move you toward an outcome consistent with your goal. It doesn't matter how big your goal is, if in your heart of hearts you do not really believe that you either, as I've said here before in other talks, I've said you need to believe it's possible and you need to believe it's permissible. You need to believe that it's perfectly okay and right for you to have the goal that you have. And then you have to also believe that it's possible to achieve it. If both of those things are in place, then the action steps you take will be consistent with somebody who sees the whole goal as being inevitable. And I believe that when people, I don't think it's esoteric or magical or religious or any of the rest. I think when people achieve their goals, usually it's because they didn't quit. But the reason they didn't quit is because they really believed they were going to achieve it. So they kept doing the things persistently that tended to get them there. So when they run into barriers or problems or issues, which we all do all the time, they tend to keep going. The person who doesn't really believe says, oh, the universe is giving me a negative signal here, and then they quit. And so they quit taking the steps that would move them in that direction. And so inevitably they fail, and then they make up a story to explain why they failed. That where the answer is anything other than the truth, and the truth is it's because you quit. Most of the time, especially in a country like America where we have the ability to do, so much. Obviously there are barriers and there's racism and there's all kinds of problems. But basically, it is the land of opportunity for the most part. Okay, so that word reparations, I don't even want to mention that word. Are you referring to reparations because of the America's treatment of the natives and all that sort of stuff? I mean, because we have a deplorable history here. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you at all on that point if that's what you're getting at. The way we've treated the Native Americans, they've got their own issues, within their subculture for sure. But basically, there is absolutely no excuse for the things that we did to them, particularly in the 1800s, but of course on different levels it of course continues today as well. And if you're referring to reparations from the standpoint that some people will say, well, why do I have to pay? So typically the conservative point of view in America, as opposed to the liberal point of view, would be, why do I have to pay and suffer for something wrong that my great grandfather did? And I actually believe that's a valid point too. Because if you take that, if you say, well, you should, okay, and then you take that through to its extreme, then we owe you, Amar, a lot, right? You're descended from people of color, so therefore we owe you. And there may be some merit to that. There's some truth to that. I mean, I think the best thing we can do is treat you right and fair today. I mean, I certainly think that's the most important thing. Hey, Chris K. But now, if I'm not understanding where you're coming from, either from the standpoint of you as a person of color or our treatment of Native Americans, then feel free to weigh in with what it is you're referring to in terms of why the idea of reparations is. You said don't even say that word, so I'm not sure where that was coming from. No, my attitude about people, you know, is we're all the same. We're all struggling, you know. We all have goals. We all have struggles. We all have challenges, both logistical and emotional. And now I need to look at how this is playing. And I think that looks better. Okay, let's keep going. So then we got this shot. There's a lot going on here that keeps the mind and the eye distracted because of Monkey. And Monkey really is the point here. So I think we're okay on these shots, frankly. That's why I said I think this webisode is going to go pretty quick. Now here, I think we should add some of those anime effects, like with the little rectangles. I think that would be good. So let's go back to 249. Okay, so I want to see what you have. So, and by the way, you know, what I'm really trying to say is, I love you, man. I love you, man. I mean, to me, we're brothers, you know. Sometimes my brother might piss me off a little bit or whatever, but at the end of the day, you know, we're all connected. We're all part of one. I actually think we're all part of one organism, truthfully, but we're certainly all part of one family. Amar says a lot of the Native Americans were black. Yeah, so just be fair to give to one and make excuses when another asks for what should have been due. Okay, so that's fair too. I mean, that's actually a really valid complaint. Why the hell are we giving any reparations at all to the Native Americans, but yet not to the black people? I think that's what you're saying. And I agree with you. I think it's, you know, that's a costly proposition to actually do what you're suggesting, but it's you know, what is the answer? You know, practically speaking, I'm not sure. You know, I don't know what the answer is. But I do respect your point. And I think it's a valid point to make. Okay, so this is going to be shot number 249. So let's save our work and let's pull up 249 because I'm pretty darn sure this is another Krita shot. 249. Ah! Rongo Bongo. Looks like this is actually a Tahoma. So let's pull up Tahoma. Okay, so he says, everything a refugee comes to America, they get certain rights and are afforded certain rights that real Native people. Okay. So you're actually coming from a completely different angle than I hadn't even considered. Wow. Okay. Boy, it's amazing how dense I can be. Can't read between the lines, I guess. No, that's a fair point too. I mean, okay, so how would I look at this? I think maybe I'm going to try to. I'm really spitballing here, okay? But I'm going to try to approach this way. I'm going to say, what if we were talking about my children? Okay, so I'm Mother America, right? I'm Mother Earth in the land of opportunity, and now I've got two children, and the children are bickering, and the basic complaint is, you screwed over child A few years ago. Or you've got a new child that's coming in that hasn't even been here, hasn't paid any dues. You know, we're like doing them a favor. And yet they've got an easier path when they come here than I do. And I've been here since I was born. Is that kind of what you're saying? Why they're so eager to get citizenship or a green card. Everything when a refugee comes to America, they get certain rights and are afforded certain things real Native people don't get. I've heard so many people, that's why they're so eager to get citizenship or a green card. But if they got, help me out here because I'm not an expert on this. Are you saying if they actually got citizenship, though, wouldn't they then be in the same position as you as a citizen as opposed to having this perhaps advantageous in some ways status as a refugee? I forgive my ignorance. Here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we have a very, very large refugee population. Big refugee population. Right in my neighborhood, there's a bunch of people from Burma. So the that and more. Okay. So yeah, refugee, issues are certainly relevant right here in my own backyard. Now I have to think or I'll make a mistake. So I need to go. I need to find shot number 249. 249, where are you? There it is. Do we want to save this? I don't think so. I believe this was a shot we were just stealing the image from. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It is very political. I would say this. Okay, if I was a politician, okay, this is how I would approach it if I'm a politician. Okay, so maybe I got elected in your district. I come back home and you're coming to me with this complaint. So this is what I would say to you. Get real specific for me. Okay? So in other words, don't speak in generalities about how these other guys, these either refugees or relatively new citizens, whatever it is, don't be general about how they have it easier or better than you in any way, shape, or form. Don't do that, because that's not going to help me. And right now, that last comment you made, people talk so much about borders but nothing about refugees. Okay, that's a general statement. It's not that you're wrong. You're probably right. People do, in fact, talk a lot about borders. And they probably don't talk nothing about refugees, but maybe they talk less about refugees. So if we're going to in other words, if we want to have a discussion that's going to lead us to policy ideas that are useful and implementable and realistic, then we have to get past the opinions and attitudes and emotion of how it all makes us feel, which is valid. It's important how it makes you feel, okay? But we have to get past that. We have to set it aside and start looking at specifics. What is it exactly and precisely that a refugee gets when they come to Chicago that you don't, and that makes you angry? What is the difference that gives them an advantage you don't have, that I'm using maybe extreme language here, but that makes you bitter, that you feel is wrong, and somehow you're being cheated because they're getting something that you, as a lifelong American who's, sort of lived here forever and grew up here and paid your dues and blah, 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 right? I think it's critical, if you want to arrive at good policy, you've got to get real specific. And that's, by the way, why it's so difficult to negotiate. Okay, border that are really invalid because South America, Middle America, and North America is all America. I'm not quite sure how to respond to that one. My thinking is this. The issues that are relevant to, I guess this is why I'm saying get specific. The issues that really matter to people are the issues that have to do with what they experience when they come into the situation. So the broad brush description of things that happen, which is usually, the following is going to sound a little demeaning, and I don't mean for it to. I think it's actually pretty accurate and truthful. What we do as human beings is and by the way, we always do this. There are no exceptions. Everybody does it all the time. So this isn't a criticism. This is just an observation about human nature. But what we do is we gather up little bits of anecdotal information, and then we assemble them. Hey, Maria. We assemble anecdotal bits of information into a story in our mind. And the story is the story we tell ourselves in order to explain to ourselves our own reality. Okay? But in order to arrive at good policy, we have to get past that, and we have to deal with specifics, because the specifics are the only thing you can actually do anything about. It's the same as creating animation. It doesn't matter what your philosophy is. It doesn't matter how good your idea is. It doesn't matter how inspired you are. If you don't either sit down and do the animation or pay someone else to do it, all you're dreaming is bullshit. Okay? And that, again, that's not a criticism. And I'm not even speaking to you specifically, Amar. I'm saying that's the fact of life. So when you talk about policy with refugees or with immigrants or with people of color or whatever, what you have to do is you have to look at the specific situations. Now, let me tell you something. That's a very unsatisfying position to take if I'm a person of color. And I'll tell you exactly why. The reason is because in the United States of America, we are a nation of the rule of law. That's a good thing in many ways. But there's one really, really, really horrifying downside to being a country where we have the rule of law, which is that there's nothing you can do about some things until a crime has already been committed against you. And then it's got to be proven, which is enormously difficult in many circumstances, right? So I understand. I said bitter, Amar, just because, for lack of a better term, to just illustrate, what we're dealing with here. Let me jump back here. Maria's here, so I think I said hello. So in this shot, I'm gonna jump back to the animation here. So anyway, my point was I want to stay very on topic so I don't lose my train of thought. What I'm asking you is, if you feel that the situation regarding maybe refugees or immigrants is an unsatisfying situation to you compared to what you experience here in America, then my question is, what is it specifically that they're getting in terms of maybe better treatment or advantages or benefits that you don't have where you say that's not fair? What is it specifically that's a matter of law or policy that is the problem? That would be, if I was your politician, if I was your representative in your district, that's the question I would ask you. Because I would be saying, there's nothing I can do about anything else. If you just feel bad about it or if you just think it's wrong, I can't do anything with that. So I have to know what the specific wrong is that has been perpetrated that could possibly be corrected. Right? So guilty before innocent doesn't really, sometimes people are treated guilty before innocent. Sometimes they're treated as innocent until proven guilty. That's the actual factual truth. The truth is sometimes it goes the wrong way and sometimes it goes the right way. Then come with a clean slate and I come with history. Again, completely true. They come with a clean slate and you come with a history. But so what? Okay, so I'm being crass. I know I'm being crass, but I'm being crass so that I can be clear. If I'm a politician and I'm in a position to, maybe I'm a powerful politician. Maybe I've got the ability to actually implement policy changes on your behalf. Okay? I'm still going to say to you, okay, they come with a clean slate, you come with a history. I'm still saying, so what? What is the problem that you're wanting me to solve here, buddy? It'd be the same thing if I was an employer and you came into the office and you're just bitching about how this office is a shithole and nobody knows how to do anything around here. I would say to you, okay, Amar, what is it you want me to do? What is it specifically that you're wanting me to address here? Because I'm happy to address it, but I need to know what the actual problem is. I get that you don't feel good about it, but I can't do anything with that because I probably can't make you feel better. In fact, if I try too hard without good information about specifics to make you feel better, what I'm actually going to do is piss off somebody else because they're going to see how I treated you better and they're going to go, well, wait a minute, why did you do that for Amar and not me? So the policy works more in their favor to start businesses and get loans. Okay, now that's a good specific. I appreciate that. Okay, so you're saying that in the city of Chicago, a refugee is more able to get a loan to start a business than you are. Is that a fact? Am I stating back to you exactly something that, as far as you know, is in fact the truth? Is that the truth? I don't know if it's the truth. I'm just taking your word for it. That may be true. I don't know. Okay, so there's a problem here because we are, I see what's going on. If we go back to the video edit, what's going on here is we've got 240. Okay, so 249 is a long shot. Okay, so I was going to change this clip, and it looks to me like this was actually edited down. It was split in half. So, okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so here what we have, we've got a problem with this shot because of the toggle implicit hold. The reason we're seeing the book when we get to Mel is probably because of implicit hold. This is an older shot. It's a legacy shot. So we need to turn off implicit hold because implicit hold did not exist in Tahoma when this shot was created. So it's causing us to see things wrongly. So yeah, I mean, if you can confirm or deny whether that is the issue you're saying. So Amar is asserting, and I am not stating whether he's right or wrong because the truth is I don't know. He's stating that one of the problems with refugees and or immigrants is that certain, let's say, opportunities that would give a person the opportunity to better themselves, such as a business loan, is actually easier for a refugee than for a Native American. Not Native meaning, you know, as we like to say, American Indian. What I mean is just somebody who's lived here their whole life. So Amar says, I haven't done it directly, but based on history and what I've seen in neighborhoods I've lived in. You know, again, that's where comments like that is where I'm going to go, well, yeah, but that's you know, based on history, that's really, really general. Okay, so now, Amar, what I'm going to say to you is what you're saying right now is disarmingly honest, and I appreciate it. But it also does not favor the argument you're making very well. What you're saying, when I have been in other discussions with people over the years, where I, you know, in my own way that I do, as you guys are seeing me do right here and right now, is I will try to pin them down to specifics so that we can really get down to what the real issue is here. Because there's lots of reasons why people become disgruntled, okay? But what you just said is actually usually the way the conversation goes. Is once you pin people down, they wind up saying something along the lines of what you just said. I'm not saying I've directly experienced it, but it's what I've seen or what I've heard. Maybe it happened to a friend of mine. It's what's demonstrated from policy. Okay. Again, pretty broad brush. And in the city of Chicago, I mean, obviously, Chicago is proverbial in being a place that's, you know, known for corruption and, you know, this sort of stuff. So, okay, so let's say this animation is going to, you know, and by the way, if I was a policymaker and you came to me with this situation and I was in a position to do something about it, this is what I would ask you. I'd say, okay, I would actually say what I said earlier. I'd say, Amar, okay, what do you want me to do? What would make you feel better? Do you need a loan? Do you need a loan to start your business? Because I actually don't think that's your answer. If you have the vision of creating entertainment, for example, because that's kind of one of the things that you do, and you want to oversee a team, okay, so you have certain payroll requirements if you want to be able to carry out the vision that you have, okay. Well, if I give you a loan, you know, you do need to pay it back, right? So you do have a bit of a problem here, because not only do you, I can work with you on the front end. The front end, okay, make it fair. So this is what I'm talking, well, I'm going to tell you from the perspective of somebody who, if I was in a position of power to help you, this is the way I would truly look at it, and this is what I would tell you. Okay, so let's just say I've got $1 million in the bank, or even $1 billion. You know, I've got unlimited funds if I want to put them to use. Okay? Number one, if you want a loan, I'm going to say, well, I love you, Amar. I definitely want to help you out, but we want to look really, really closely at whether a loan is the right idea. Because if I give you a loan, I do want to be paid back, and I'm even willing to forego the interest or make it really nominal. Okay? But I do need to have some assurance that it's going to be paid back. So in almost any circumstance, if you want a business loan, now there are grants, and that's a whole different thing if you want to try to get a grant. But if you want a loan, then we got to have some kind of collateral. Okay, so that means that you're putting me in the position where I could actually destroy your life if you're not able to pay back that loan, because I'm going to take away from you something that you've put forward as collateral. So that's a dangerous decision for you. It's a very dangerous decision, actually. Now in the business, and this is probably good information for a lot of people. A lot of people here, you know, they may not be like me where they've spent 30 years running their own business. You know, because I incorporated in the 90s. Okay. I'm eating my olive right now, by the way. So, if we're not going to do the loan thing, or if we're going to bend the rules and say, well, maybe we're not going to do a loan, but we're going to do some kind of grant. In other words, I'm going to be an angel investor. So let's say we're not going to do a loan. I'm going to be an angel investor, okay? So I'm looking at what you're doing. I'm going, dude, Amar, you know, you're a good guy. I believe in your vision. You know, in terms of you convincing me that you can deliver on the promise of what you're trying to do, you know, we're part of the way there. We're not necessarily all the way there where I'm fully confident, but you know what? I like what I see. How can we move forward in a way that puts you at a nominal level of risk, but yet gives you maximal incentive to do whatever the hell you have to do to succeed? What does that look like? That's the question I'd be asking you. I would be asking you to be coming back to me creatively and convincing me that you're the guy I want to bet on. Now, there's another downside to that. You know, the problem with, for most people that are actually, put it this way, starting a business is always hard. You're going to have between 2 months of 2 years just trying to get to the point where you feel like you're going to be okay, right? That's normal. That's totally normal. 2 months to 2 years. Okay. For most people that want to be in business, they're way better to get a loan actually than to take investors. Why? Because if you take investors, you're going to be paying them forever. They own the company, or at least they own a significant piece of it. That's what you're giving away in exchange for that investment dollar. So you're getting paid once, you know, to cover your costs for a period of time. But then when the business succeeds, you're paying those people forever. Okay? And I'll come to your last comment about the 3 to 5 years here in a second. So for most people that are in a position who need capital, if capital is the solution, and it usually isn't, by the way, especially in the creative space, usually capital is not the answer, but let's assume it is for the moment. Okay, you're way better off to look at debt. Okay, so the downside to debt is you got to have collateral. The downside with investment is you've got people that are, you know, well, they're up your butt and potentially controlling your company forever. That's what you're signing up for. And so when you look at it that way, all of a sudden you become a lot more pragmatic. Do I really need money? Is it really cash that I need? You really should always ask yourself that question. And I'm not just talking to Amar here. Okay? 3 to 5 years is what they usually say. Well, Amar, who is they? Okay, I mean, you're talking to a guy who started his own business in 1991, and I haven't had a real job in 30 years. So who exactly, I'd like to know, is they? You know, I've had many friends, you know, peers that have developed businesses, you know, sort of in tandem with me over the years, and some of which I do not have a multi-million-dollar business. I have friends who definitely do, who are actually at the top of their field kind of thing, right? And so, I mean, who is they? 3 to 5 years? The first 3 years you work for nothing? That's bullshit. Whoever told you that doesn't know what they're talking about, Amar. Okay? Let's just be clear. Whoever told you the first 3 years you work for nothing, yeah, if you're starting a freaking restaurant, you're going to start a restaurant? You know, let's do it ASAP, man. You know what ASAP means when Dave says it? Huh. You know what that means? That means this. That is what ASAP means. Okay, I'm sure you do, Amar. But, okay, so you've been told by people who run businesses that it's going to take 3 to 5 years. Okay. We'll go with that. Then that's fine. Okay, let's go with that. For the sake of argument, that's fine. Okay. Well, if it's 3 to 5 years, then the question for me becomes, okay, so what are you asking me for? Are you asking me for 3 to 5 years of capital to pay you and a team? That's what we're talking about? I'm gonna support this thing for 3 years before I even know if it's gonna work? I wouldn't do that. I don't know why a bank would do it. A bank would give you the money as a loan if you had the collateral. But the problem is if you're starting a business from scratch, you don't have collateral. In other words, and this is why the rich get richer. I mean, think about it. It's common sense. It's not evil. It's just the way it is. If somebody has $100,000 or $1 million sitting in the bank, they're not going to have any trouble getting a loan. Because they're not a big risk. Because it's safe to know that they're going to pay it back. You know? And if you've got $100,000 or $1 million sitting in the bank, you don't need investors either. If you're doing consulting, well, we're talking about, in my case, obviously I'm a business-to-business services. That's what I've done, is business-to-business services. Okay? And I specifically structured my business so that what I was selling was not hour by hour. Put it this way, back in the days when I worked in a recording studio, we ran the numbers and we figured out that if the audio room, which was making $40 an hour for studio time, if they were booked 40 hours a week, and the video room, which was at that time was $60 an hour, if they were booked 40 hours a week, both rooms, the company would go bankrupt. We figured that out. So what do you do about that? Well, what you do is you sell packages. You have to package your services in a way that's profitable, because selling hours just doesn't pay the bills, So we're referring to typical brick and mortar businesses. If you're doing consulting, consulting is, you're correct. Consulting is like accounting or something. It's a very low overhead business. It can be enormously profitable too, by the way. Right? But let me see here. And by the way, I need to go ahead and get this little effect in here that I was talking about doing. So but this is enormously interesting to me, and I enjoy talking about it because frankly, it's something that people that are here that are most of the people that are going to come here that are doing animation, they want to animate, okay? They're not trying to run a business per se, although they may want to make money with their art, but they really don't. I think it's safe to say, probably in most cases, they really don't even understand what business, how you run a business. You know what I mean? They just don't have experience. It's not a criticism. They just don't know, and people really need to educate themselves, Okay, so I'm going to do this way. I'm going to do this. I've done this on some other shots before. It seems to work pretty well. So I'm just going to make these red. So what you're comparing, you're providing a service-based business that can easily scale. Well, let's take it. You've told me that you, like for you. Okay, let me actually give you a real-world scenario that relates to you, okay? You told me that in the web space it's front-end development that you do, correct? Is that right? Let's get real specific with you, if you don't mind. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I do find this very interesting because it relates directly to what my son is doing right now, I think. Okay, so, you're stating the obvious. Obviously, having good contacts and a network of people that, trust you and want to work with you or whatever, obviously that is quite important. Okay, I want to line this up. Okay, so Amar is answering my question that he's done. He's doing website front end development. Okay, so we've got 9 people watching. That's not a million, but okay. So and Amar has lots of experience with that. So what does that actually mean in practice? Okay, it means that Amar is very comfortable with HTML. And if you guys don't know this terminology, don't worry about it. It's got to do with the underlying code that makes websites work. So Amar is familiar with HTML. He's familiar with CSS. He's probably quite familiar, well, I know he is, quite familiar with JavaScript. And then he's probably got some familiarity with either platforms or code bases that are typically used in the front end development process. So he may be familiar with Angular.js. He may be, I'm sure he uses jQuery. He's probably familiar with Bootstrap. He may be a guy that loves certain kind of back-end technologies like Node.js, yada, 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 yada. But the bottom line is there's this suite of technologies that he's familiar with. Okay? Is that a pretty fair? You started out with HTML just like I did because I started doing websites in 1998. Okay? And so there is a lot of bleed over and there's a lot of carryover between the web space and the graphic design space. Obviously, because a lot of the conventions of the two are the same, you know, in terms of what you're trying to do visually, right? So, and by the way, there's never been a better time to be a web developer in terms of the technologies being increasingly mature. And the bottom line is, you know, whatever it is you have in your mind that you'd like to do, you usually can pretty much do it nowadays, right? This would be easier in Krita, by the way. Just saying, people. What I want to do is take this and rotate it like that. Okay, so you did your first person website back in the 90s. Okay, so back-end experience, but you're not a full stack. Okay, so Amar is not a full stack guy, so that means he's probably not proficient in PHP. Or perhaps some of the Microsoft-specific back-end web technologies, which I'm not a big fan of myself. So I'm a Linux guy. You know, the truth be known, I want to flip that like that. And then what I'm going to do is press down the Shift key, so this comes over like that. Okay. Okay, so where are we going with this? Let me tell you the story now, okay? Because you do some of this with your day job, don't you? I mean, is web development part of what you do at your day job, or is it something you just have done, and it's not actually how you're really making money per se, kind of thing? It's not. I mean, you don't have to say, but I mean, it's not necessarily that relevant. Okay, so you're .NET and C#. Okay, great. So again, I'm not a .NET guy. I mean, I am a Visual Basic guy back in the day, you know, years and years and years ago. But basically, that's not my shtick. I'm not really into that. The Microsoft technologies and/or platforms, however you want to say it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, by the way, friends, is I'm now going to take this, move this over here. Okay, so let me tell you, I'm going to just tell you what my son's path was. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to encourage you that the conventional wisdom is often wrong. Because usually the conventional wisdom that you're told, especially in the business realm, it's often coming from people who actually haven't done it. Right? They might be successful people. They might be making good money, yada, yada, yada. But, and I don't consider myself exactly an expert at this, right? The only thing I can lay claim to is that I've been able to work for myself for 30 years, you know. And I like that. I do it because I want to, you know. So, yeah, you know what the problem is we're going to have here? The problem is that if we stretch this, I'll bet you it's going to get, that's interesting. Yeah, it's going to shear. I'm sure it's going to shear. That's not what we want. Yeah, this would be so much easier in Krita. There's some things that are just easier in Krita. Okay, so now I'll just tell the story. So the story is this. When COVID happened, basically what I did was I said to my son, I want you to. He seems, of my three children, he's the one that's the most entrepreneurial, let's say, as opposed to maybe following more traditional paths to whatever your vocation might be. And so what I did was had him actually do commission sales, get on the phone and actually do business-to-business telemarketing for 3 summers in a row. So the first summer he did the message on hold service. It was radio jingles. It was actually musical jingles for radio. The second summer it was message on hold, and the third summer it was like, okay, now we're going to go to web development. And so what I told him is I said, you're going to have to learn, you've got to learn the code side. You may ultimately embrace a platform, which he wound up doing. He actually wound up being a Wix guy. He really likes Wix as a platform. I personally don't. He does. But once he got his business up and spinning, I'm like, dude, if that's what you like, then use it. Don't look at me. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But what I told him was this. I said, you're going to spend 2 months learning HTML and CSS, a month each, really getting proficient. And then it's going to take 2 months for you to get proficient with JavaScript. Okay, and then you're going to get on the phone and you're going to start selling. And you're going to just sell clients. You're going to find people that have a crappy website. Let's say, you just find anybody on the planet that's got a crappy website. Give them a call. Say, look, I'm a web guy. I think I can help you. Pretty much all there is to it. And I told him, I said, Kyle, this is what's going to happen, and this is the part of this talk that I'm giving you guys right now that is really important to understand. This is what I told him because this was my prediction, and it turned out to be 100% correct. And I know it because I've been through it, and this is what happens. When you get your website development business going, what's going to happen is the following. You're going to have 2 hours that are going to scare you to death. Okay? Well, I know Amar, but and I'm not telling you should do this. You can do it if you want to, because I guarantee you could. I'm just telling you this is the path. This is how it works. This is how business works. I said, Kyle, just think about 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You're going to have 2 hours that are going to scare you to death because you're making these phone calls and you're worried, you're afraid of rejection, whatever. You're going to have 2 hours that are miserable. Okay? But then after 2 days, you're going to go, this isn't so bad. I actually can take this rejection. It's not really not all that bad. After 2 weeks, you're going to start finding some people that are, they're willing to talk to you. After 2 months, you're going to start picking up a customer or two, and you're actually going to make a little bit of money. You're going to start saying to yourself, I think maybe this is going to work. And after 2 years, you're never going to have to worry about paying your bills again. That's what I told him. It just happened exactly like that. So what I told him was going to happen is exactly what happened. And right now, here's a kid who at 19 years old, he's actually going to go to college. He's actually going for college. He's going to college. He's putting himself through college, learning cybersecurity. He's learning basically the high end of what surrounds IT and web development. But in the meantime, here's a guy that's going to school while he's running a business. The hardest thing for him as a 19-year-old guy is actually to find peers that are his own age that have an experience like his, because there are so few kids that are actually running a business. It's really, really crazy. And it's so sad to me because it's so easy. Because think about that timeline I just gave you. The truth of the matter is that the timeline is really the part of the timeline that's important is 2 weeks to 2 years. Because it only takes about 2 weeks to 2 years. Well, it takes 2 weeks. I should have said 2 weeks to 2 months. That's like the hot spot. Because that's where most people are going to quit. Because they're going to get discouraged. And we certainly had those conversations where I said, hang in there, Kyle. Just keep doing what you're doing. Because you're feeling really discouraged right now, but I'm on the outside and I'm looking at what you're doing and I'm telling you, buddy, you are right on track. It doesn't feel like it right now, but trust me, just keep doing what you're doing. This is what's going to happen. And he did. And now in the last week, 2 different times, he walks in the house, yep, picked up another website client today. It's like, really? Why am I not surprised? Because getting through the 2 months, and then ever since it started when COVID started, so he actually has been at it for 2 years. He is in a pretty secure place in his life, but he's still wanting to, ultimately he's going to want to scale and make his business, I think, much, much bigger than mine. I think. Right? He's going to put me to shame, probably. And I think it's great. I'm so proud of him for that. But okay, so now what we need to do, by the way, is go to another frame. And did we make we need to hit the D key. Because what I want to do is make a duplicate here, and then I want to scale all these. I'm going to use the C key so that I can grab the nodes. And I'm just going to do it this way. I'm just going to eyeball it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I'm telling you guys this because I really want to encourage you, anybody out there that has a vision for what they're trying to, I mean, what I'm trying to do here, with animation is kind of stupid, really. It's really way easier to make money doing business-to-business services. Really, it actually is. But, I'm a creative guy. I'm a music guy. I've challenged it. This is why I made films, because I just looked at it and I said, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can. I think I can. So why not try? So I did. And it took me it actually only took me 5 movies to make one that turned out to be pretty good. And the one that was most successful was the 5th one. So I had some real hosers in between. But basically, filmmaking, I made so many mistakes, it's just stupid, I'm not particularly talented. I'm okay. But, not going to be winning any Oscars or anything. Let's just see if this is kind of sort of looking all right. Okay, so now what I wanted to do with this, the idea behind this concept, I'm going to, this is you guys, if you're into anime, you've seen this before, but let me go ahead and save my work. What's really helpful? I'm glad it's helpful, but I don't know what I said that's helpful. But my point is this, though. But think about it, Amar. Do you realize that I don't have anything at all in my past or my history? I can sit here on YouTube and brag to you guys about how I made a movie that made $1 million. But remember, I only ever saw about $60,000 of that particular movie. I've got another movie that kind of pays me every month pretty, it's a nice little, it pays a few bills kind of thing. But I don't have anything. I mean, I got no credibility, right? I've been in business. I've got my commercial clients, so I've been doing that for 30 years. But when it comes to what I'm doing here, I have no track record at all. I've got nothing, dude. Nothing. I have nothing. I've never done a cartoon before. I hadn't even done animation. I mean, I can talk about hash and all the rest, but that was 3D stuff back in the 90s, and I never actually completed anything that was, there were a couple little things I actually did, but mostly I just poked at it, right? So my point is that functionally, I'm starting over here. This is a complete blank slate, me saying, you know what, I think I want to create a cartoon. What the hell? I'm going for it. That's all this is. And I have no better chance to succeed at it than you do. Absolutely none. In fact, there's plenty of people here who come to my channel who are more talented than I am. I'm telling you. In the long run, Sifter is going to be enormously more successful than me as an animator. Now, I might be able to write a better screenplay, let's say. And I might have the advantage that I can do the voices or I can do the score or whatever. But basically, Nagut 40, way the hell better animator than me. Sifter, certainly a better at drawing anime type characters, and his animation is coming along fast, and it's not going to be long before he's going to leave me in the dust. Okay? And I could go, there's other names. Obviously, you've got your Ed Tadeos who come around sometimes, and your Alan Dans who are very accomplished. I am nothing, you guys. I'm nothing. But I have the attitude that I believe if I persist and just try, I may make a million mistakes, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. And so you know what? I'm not going to give up. Because it's fun. You know? I'm having fun. So what the heck? I'm going to go ahead and just do this thing. You know? And it's all, and I mean, if you want to talk about, should I be discouraged right now? Let me ask you guys this. I've got 3 webisodes. Okay, so as far as I know, I'm one of very few people on the entire planet that has created multiple 4-minute long cartoon webisodes that they've released on YouTube where they've done the whole thing, the animation, the music, the voices. I've done it all. And how many people have watched this cartoon? Have you guys looked at my numbers? They're terrible. 300 people watched the first webisode. The second webisode, that's like 160. I mean, the numbers are atrocious. I don't know why. I don't know why, and most of me doesn't care. Because that's not that important right now. Because I'm going to be the guy who finishes. I will get it done. I will complete it. It will be reasonably good. And I will get it to market. I'm not going to stop. It's the way it is, right? And so that's why I'm not all about animation here, because I don't actually, gosh, I don't know how to say this, but I don't even know if I love animation that much. I like it. I mean, it's cool and everything, but what I like is the experience of watching the animation. I am actually trying to create for myself an experience that I enjoy having from other people's properties. That's really the main thing I'm trying to do. You know, I'm saying, you know what? When my son and I used to binge watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, it made me feel a certain way. Okay, I'm going to try to reproduce that. I'm going to create for me what I want to see. You know? I don't know. Maybe that's crazy. And these really need to be hold. These need to be hold keyframes. But I'm going to, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to say put these both up here and then put this one down here. And then I believe, okay, so this really should go another cycle probably. I'm telling you guys this to encourage you. You guys, whatever the hell you want to do, you can do. You can do it. And it's almost like, it's going to be bittersweet for me. You know why? Because right now I got 8 people watching. Of the 8 people watching, probably 4 of them, probably 4 of the people that are watching right now are going to wind up being way more successful than me doing exactly the same similar kind of thing to what I'm doing. Because you know what? When it's all said and done, what they're going to do is it's going to turn out that they were a better animator than me. It's going to turn out that they were smart enough to team up with YS Books and have her write their screenplay for them. And so they're going to have a better script. They're going to partner with people wherever they find them to get the voices involved. And they're going to find some young Turk like JJ Berthume, one of my Facebook friends, who's a much better composer than I am. Enormously talented. Young guy, he's probably 24 years old or something. Amazing composer. I've thought about pitching them, hey JJ, you know, I'm kind of doing this thing. Do you want to like guest score one of these little 4-minute episodes just so you get some IMDb credits for scoring something that's real, kind of thing, you know? I mean, he's done some stuff, but it's mostly like short films and whatnot, and he'd probably be willing to do that. And I'm like, why wouldn't I want to do that? To give JJ a chance to get some respectable credit, and it helps my show. You know, why not? You know, we're all just trying to survive here and just do what we do, you know? So, I don't know. I appreciate you weighing in too, Yvette, because I love what you're doing. I mean, I think that what you're doing is so cool. And as I've said before, it is kind of, you know, has some similarities to kind of the direction that my partner Valerie's going, because, you know, she's on the third book. She is literally on the third book of a trilogy. And it's like, I'm really proud of her for that, you know? Because she's really not thinking about, she's doing what I'm describing, actually. She's just entertaining herself. She's writing something she would love to read, and that's all she's doing. She's like, screw the result. When the time is right, we'll put it to market and see what happens. But in the meantime, I'm going to write what makes me enjoy the writing process, and that's it. So, I mean, look at what Yvette says. Yvette is YS Books, by the way. My book readership was 0 when you started. And now, what has Yvette got? She's got at least, how many books do you have out there on the Amazon Kindle platform, whatever they call it? Like, you got like at least 6 books out there. I know someone, Sifter, and thank you for weighing in too, Sifter, because I'm so proud of you two for what you're doing. I think what you're doing is so cool. I know someone who finished 3 manga books, got them published and printed, tried selling in various places, didn't work, but he's still going. Okay, well, and there will be those, 15 books, that is insane. Girl, that is so cool. I'm serious. I just think that is, like, awesome. If I don't do anything else here on YouTube, you know, that's, like, worthwhile, I hope somebody comes away going, you know what, Dave at least made me feel like maybe I could do it. Because I really believe you can. I mean, there's like no doubt in my mind. There's so much freaking talent here on this channel, probably in the room right now, that it's just stupid. It's just nuts how much talent. And I only make this point because usually the reason we don't reach our potential has nothing to do with our ability. It certainly has nothing to do with whether the market can embrace whatever we bring to the table. The market has plenty of room for all of us, right? It just does. If that wasn't true, I mean, why the hell do you think that everybody and his brother is following in the footsteps of Netflix, and all the TV networks like NBC, they're forming Peacock now? Well, obviously it's already up and running, but you know, why is everybody trying to create a platform, and then they're going out, and even Tubi is bootstrapping some made for Tubi content? Why do you think that is? There's this monstrous appetite for content. And it's so cool because, and frankly, for all the complaining some people do sometimes about YouTube and their algorithm and all this, the reality is YouTube is an amazing platform. Because anybody, you don't have to follow very many rules to be able to go on YouTube and just publish whatever you want. And I will tell you guys, I will guarantee you, if you put content on YouTube and it doesn't become successful, it's because the content's not that interesting. That's the only reason. The algorithm's fine. And if your content is good, it will find its audience. I'll guarantee you. Now, may you have to do the Patreon thing or have some sponsors and all that in order to actually turn it into a viable business? Absolutely, that might be the case, for sure. But if you're not getting views, it's because you suck. And I say that with authority because, folks, I'm here telling you I suck. Okay? I'm saying that emphatically. I have nothing to complain about. I suck. As a YouTuber, I totally suck. How do I know that? Because I don't get that many views. I've got a pretty good number of subs, but not that many, you know. I mean, Darren's doing much better than me. And that's because Darren is actually creating content that people actually love, right? And anybody can do it. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. Of course it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Okay, by the way, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to see if I can actually I'm seeing if I can change the interpolation to, how do we set the interpolation on these? Can we set the interpolation on these from the X sheet? I don't know if we can. We might have to go to the function editor. That kind of sucks. That's okay. But I'm serious, man. I mean, I'm just, it's fun to talk to you guys, but basically it's just, I'm just doing what I do. Ultimately, the business side of this is really when it gets released for real world distribution, because I have a lot more confidence, frankly, in my film distributor to be able to get the thing out there than I have in myself. I don't think I'm particularly great. I'm good at sales, but I'm not good at like modern marketing, with the marketing funnel. If I really tried, I'd probably do fine with it. I haven't really tried very hard, to tell you the truth. I mean, I know how to look at the analytics and then look at the marketing funnel and see what people's behavior is and say, okay, well, let's change where we make an offer or what we're offering and try to funnel people into whatever we're trying to do to make money. I get how it works, and it's not even particularly difficult, but I'm just trying to make a cartoon here. So this is what I'm focused on, is the grunt work of making the cartoon. What I'm interested in is not marketing funnels. What I'm interested in is good writing, good animation, good music, and good voices. That's what I'm interested in. So unfortunately, I can't go take out a Facebook ad and brag about how I'm going to turn you into a success overnight, through through the marketing funnel. I don't consider myself good at that. So I have, that's not my expertise. My expertise is getting on the phone and, business to business, telling a business owner, what they need in some given area and how I can solve their problem. And then I solve it. That's what I do. That's how my bills get paid, kind of thing. I don't think, how the heck do we find we got column 5. And I guess we're looking for the rotation keys. But why aren't they showing up here in the function editor? It's really easy to be mediocre. That is true. And I want to say this, though. I mean, let's face it, guys. My animation's mediocre. Okay. I'm not going to get any awards for animation. I'm not trying to be Howard Wimshurst or, whoever it is that is like really into like animation for its own sake, right? That's not me. I'm about telling stories, So when you say it's easy to be mediocre, I think the point also needs to be made, and it is a point of encouragement, is that, and boy, did I find it out this week dealing with tech support on the web migration, is that in our culture, you can really, really suck. Seriously, I mean this in the nicest way. You can really suck and still get rich. You really can. It does not require much. It doesn't require excellence to be very, very successful. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, I think it's wonderful that that's true. If we all had to be the best, then, that would be kind of a drag, right? Control C. I'm doing this the hard way. I'm just making duplicate keys so that I don't have to screw around with the interpolation. Let's go with that. See what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to take a moment in here. I used to talk with a very famous YouTube animator, ask him how he did it, and he told me content's got to be either education, funny, or makes you feel good. I agree. I don't know if what I'm releasing, Sifter, is making people feel good. I'm not sure. I think that once if it gets a little traction and starts to get a little wider audience, I may find out that it is making people feel good. The anecdotal stuff I hear from people who just watch it it does make them laugh, in the places where they're supposed to laugh or whatever. And, the feedback's positive, but I don't put a lot of stock in that, because, we're basically talking, friends and family kind of thing. And of course, they're always going to be, try to be encouraging or whatever. So, okay, that was what I was trying to do. So, let's stretch this down. So I don't know why. Oh, I see. We just exceeded the. Okay, I'm going to check the animation and see what frame we went to. I'm on the other screen. I'm just looking at the. Oh, it did go through 42. Okay, so. Actually, this is supposed to end here. So that means we can render this. Oh, no. TIFF? Why is this a set of TIFFs? Stop, TIFFs. Okay, so I'm flat, honestly lazy, even with what I do produce. But honestly, if I live up to my capabilities, I know I have to constantly do that each time. That's a lot of work. I understand what you're saying. I think you get past about 48, and I would say roughly 48, age 48, you have to begin to be more careful about how you allocate your energy, I would say. It's easy to be mediocre. You can do just enough to prove your skill. To be excellent and push for every time means I have to. Well, that gets back to what I was saying about what I'm trying to do is that if you have it in your mind that you've got to compete with, let's say, Disney or something, something really up there. That can be counterproductive in terms of you achieving some goals. If it's really, really important to you that that's what you can do, then you need to pursue that, right? You've got to, you have to get good at Disney-style animation if that's what it takes to turn you on so that you say, hey, in other words, if I'm not producing that, I don't want to do it because I don't want to see this crappy stuff over here that isn't what I care about, right? So you need to do what you care about, for sure. By the way, I'm going to come over here and I think I'm going to tamp down the saturation a little bit here. But that's an ongoing process, and there's a lot of experimentation involved in figuring out like what it is you even like. When I started, honestly, when I began doing animation, I was not into anime at all, like not at all. And Valerie kind of liked anime. I had hardly watched any. So like 3 years ago, I mean, unless you count Avatar as anime, which probably some people don't, I hadn't watched any anime up until 3 years ago. Even in my age, I have to be careful how I allocate. That's true. It'll bite me in your 40s if you don't do it right. You know it will. Yeah, it's true. And I have a. I actually think if a person gets plenty of sleep, okay, and then you give your very best hours to your main thing that it is you're trying to do, then I honestly think most people, they're going to have 3 or 4 really, really killer hours in them. They're going to have about 2 more that are okay. But basically, the whole idea of an 8-hour workday is kind of stupid. Because most people are really only good for a fraction of that. So, my opinion, if the convention in our culture was actually for everyone to work a 6-hour workday instead of 8, I believe our productivity would go through the roof. But that's my opinion. Other people may disagree. But I actually think it's probably true. Okay, we got this effect done. Hey, Kyle.
Hello.
How'd the painting go?
Good. I got another coat on Max Truman. I did the trim.
Awesome. Kyle's helping dial in the house he's moving into. So, all right. I'm a little concerned here because this rendered TIFFs, and I don't think that the shot is supposed to be TIFFs. So why it rendered TIFFs, I am not sure. But yeah, they're supposed to be pings. So we need to go to level or scene. I might be getting a little tired here because render output settings. Okay. This is supposed to be PNG, my friends. And it's definitely not supposed to be in the outputs folder. Oh my gosh. I wonder why that's weird. Being in Tahoma for the output not to be in the right place is kind of crazy. All right, scenes. And this is shot number 249. Render. And they're pings. And this is 249. Now that will do the trick. So, but you're right, Sifter. Even at your age, which I'm guessing you're, what are you, like low 20s? Like 22 or something? You know, I mean, yes and no. Actually, let me say I shouldn't just agree with you outright on that, because when I was your age, I pulled a lot of, I didn't do like all-nighters and stuff, especially in school. I never did that, but I had a lot of days and times and seasons where I'd be going till 2 or 3 in the morning. And I think one of the, I could be wrong about this, but I think one of the advantages I had was that, okay, so here, if we come over here, one of the advantages I had is that I've lifted weights every day for many, many years. And I think staying in shape has probably helped me. I don't know that. I mean, I might just be maybe, you know, a little bit lucky or whatever, but okay, so this is not looking quite right. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so these need to change. Hello? It's almost like the frame rate's wrong. Let me play this back. Bop, 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 bop. Yeah, I want to take this and move these up. Gosh, I'm just gonna have to re-roll this. This is why I said this would actually be a lot easier in Krita. So this is gonna be here again. Control C. And then I want to grab these two. Control C. I think I'm getting this right. I don't know. I don't know if that's quite working, but we'll give it a crack. There's Maria. I did at 25. I was working 2 jobs while trying to have a social life. Tell me about it, dude. You have to release a product. I know plenty of writers who started with me, but they believe their stories are never good enough. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You got to release it for a number of reasons. Number one, to just condition the courage of just letting it out. Number two, to allow the marketplace to spit back to you some feedback as to whether what you're doing is, you know, going to work or not. I think that's right. Well, that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm cranking out these webisodes. Correct. I have a commitment to write a tiny play. Yes, the tiny play. Can't kind of be perfect each time, but you have to do the best you can for that week. Yeah, and I've said that here before too. Is that's why I have tremendous respect for people who write comic books or reporters. newspaper reporters. Of course, newspapers aren't really a thing today, but bloggers or whatever. But anybody who writes on a schedule where they just say, it's my job. I have to write something today, and they just they produce on demand because they really have no choice. I think that's a tremendous thing to do, because then you can't think it to death. You can't agonize over it. I'll just say that for most people, having a deadline over which they have no control would probably be a good thing. I can't remember if I rendered this the last time. So, Amar said, took till my late 30s before I finally got a real job. Well, a career level job. I got out of college. Took more than a decade before you found a real job. Wow. What can you describe what type of job is it that you wound up doing? So I assume what you mean is finding a job that was sort of in your chosen field or whatever. Oh wait, that's not what we want. We want this one. Okay, I am not happy with this. I want to go ahead and extend this out. Yes, that's what I want to do. Jeez. Yes, that's way better. Okay. I don't know why I was cutting that off so tight. Now that that effect is in there, it definitely wants to be a little bit longer shot. No, Amar, there's no. See, I don't believe that, because if in order to be in any given place in life, a person has to be the kind of person who can be in that place in life. And so you have to go through that set of experiences to learn what you needed to learn to be ready for whatever it is you had to be ready for, And that's probably not that encouraging, but what might be encouraging is to remember the Beatles principle. I've shared this here before, but I think it's a really important principle, because it's true of business too. Remember, I talked about the 2 hour, 2 day, 2 week, 2 month, 2 year thing. Well, the thing about it is, it's always really interesting to note that most of the productivity of the Beatles all happened within about a 2 or 3 year period of time. Most of all their hits happened in a very short period of time. Okay? The hot period for the Beatles was from like 66 to 69. And actually the bulk of that productivity was packed into 2 years. And they had some success later, of course, but never like what they had when they were the Beatles. So why do I mention that? Well, because actually what you find is, there is a point to this. The point to this is that what you find is that anything you do is going to have a 2 to 8 year life cycle, which means in 2 years of practicing any craft, you're going to probably, to a large extent, you're probably going to get as good as you're going to get, truthfully, at anything in 2 years, if you really work hard at it. Okay, so then the next 6 years after that, it's just nuance. You'll develop some craft or whatever, and you're always improving, but basically you are what you're going to be in large part within a couple years. Okay. Well, that's not a bad thing, because what you find is, if you start a business and the business is finally viable after 2 years, what you will find is that you're going to be sailing high and hot and making money up through about that 8 year period of time. And then what typically happens is, around that 8 year period, one of two things begin to happen, which is the people that started the business get bored, and the business either begins to decline or it stagnates. Okay? And if it grows, it turns into something different than what it was before. And the only way that works with the original people that were doing it is if their goals change and grow as well. So what's the encouraging thing in this? It's the fact that in life, we all have many, many, many of these 2 to 8 year cycles in us. And the kid that's doing amazing work at 25 years old, he is not going to be able to sustain that. He may still be working and doing good work when he's 70 years old. Okay? But the aspect of that talent that we look at and that we remember and that made a dent in the culture in some way usually happens in a very, very short little period of time. So in other words, Amar, your 2 to 8 year period may be starting now. And the kid that started at 20, he may have had his little 2 to 8 year period back then. But then when he's 50, he's going to be doing something different. He's probably not going to be doing the same thing. Or he may be doing the same thing and he hates it because he's bored with it. Right? How many rock stars sustain a career beyond 2 years, let alone 5 or 6? How many rock stars do it? When I was in high school, when you and I, Amar, were young, high school, college age, think about who you had back then who actually was able to sustain it through to now. Basically none. But there's a couple who came pretty close. You had Bryan Adams. I don't, by the way, this is obviously mainstream pop. That's what I'm familiar with. You got Bryan Adams, you got Madonna, you got Mellencamp. To a lesser extent, you got Bon Jovi. In the hard rock arena, you do have AC/DC. But, I mean, really, you can count them on a couple hands. The number of people that sustain it beyond just a couple years. Most people do something amazing, and it's what we all remember and admire and want to emulate. And I think that's stupid, actually. That's not what we should be admiring and emulating. We should not be admiring greatness. We should admire quality, but we really should admire consistency. You know, Bryan Adams, I do have respect for because he can still write a good song today. He really, you know, he's got good craft in the arena of, you know, pop songwriting, let's say. And I respect that because the people who can sustain it, you know, tend to stay healthy and enjoy the ride. But let's face it, the peak was, you know, in the mid 80s. You know, the time that was crazy, the time we all remember was way back then, you know? So my point is, you have at least 10 or 15 2 to 8 year cycles in you. And it's never too late to start one. Never. Right? Okay, so what's Sifter say? A very good example for what you're describing. Modern day James. Okay, he practiced art for 2 years, then he did educational content. It blew up on YouTube with 2K USD on Patreon. So, and then later he drifted from the educational content as far as you know. Yeah, very few can sustain what we as a culture respond to as greatness. It doesn't mean that their craft isn't great and their skill isn't great. And that, you know, in the musical space, you know, I really like Rick Emmett as a guitar player. He does smooth jazz. But in the 80s, he was a rocker. He was a hard rock guy, and that was when I got familiar with him, and I was influenced by his playing. Okay? So part of my style was influenced by Rick Emmett. He does amazing work today, but nobody knows about him anymore unless you're into smooth jazz. It's a very small niche market. Right? And there's lots of bands that do sustain a career. Journey's a great example of what I'm talking about. Journey is still touring right now, literally right now. When they got Arnel Pineda in the group to replace, you know, as a credible imitation of Steve Perry, the band immediately had a resurgence because live, I have seen them once. Actually, I saw them, unfortunately, through the period when Steve Augeri was the singer. And it was still an amazingly great show. Okay? But let me tell you something about Journey. They have not had a hit song in 30 years. And they can't do it. So Arnell is, he's a 50. He's our age, Amar. Arnell is our age. He's like 53, and yet he runs around like a 23-year-old. On the stage. He's amazing shape. This guy. So as a touring band, still able to make a good living, very comfortable, doing great. Based on what they did in the 80s, they're living a good life. They're happy. They're doing what they do. Jonathan Cain is doing actually contemporary Christian music on the side. Apparently he became a Christian somewhere along the way, and so that's the guy who plays piano. I mean, he's Jonathan Cain. I mean, that's the guy who wrote the piano signature lick that starts out "Don't Stop Believin'." That's Jonathan Cain. All of those hits. All the big hits that have piano in them was largely because of Jonathan Cain coming into the group, actually. They had some hits before that, but basically it was Jonathan and Steve Perry together that made the magic that was actually stratospheric. And if you listen to what they're putting out and by the way, they just put a new album out. Okay, so there's a brand new Journey album out right now. I think it's the third one they've done with Arnell. You can hear these guys trying their absolute level best to reproduce the magic that made the songs like Don't Stop Believin', Who's Crying Now, Wheel in the Sky, Lights, whatever. And they cannot do it. What they're doing is basically repeating themselves. And this is what I'm telling you is when you get through when you start the 2 to 8 year cycle, you've got all the energy of wanting to have an experience. And the experience you want to have is maybe it's to make money if you're in business, right? So what you're wanting to do is it's the idea of climbing the mountain. And climbing the mountain is way, way more compelling than actually getting to the top. You've heard many people say that, but it's true. If you literally had $1 million in the bank right now, if you're struggling with money, I can promise you this. If you had $1 million in the bank right now, you would breathe a great sigh of relief, and you'd probably go buy a few things. But basically, it wouldn't be very long before you'd be looking in the mirror and going, is this all there is? I guarantee you. Once people have money, and I've heard many people say this, and personally I'm doing okay in life, I'm doing okay, is that once they have money, all it really does is make it so that they basically don't have to worry about it anymore. That's really all that accomplishes, is so you don't have the worry part of it. But beyond that, it's just, so that 2 year period is all about climbing the mountain and having something that you want to experience. Getting that first customer, selling that first, getting a show distributed, let's say, or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Once you've done it one time, and then especially once you've done it 2 times, it's like same old, same old. Believe me. And this is how we operate as people. We are sustained by the desire to have an experience. Once you have that experience, then you're going to want to have another experience. And for you, Amar, when you talk about what you were doing in your 20s, the reality is, I can say this with authority, and I know that it's true. When you were in your 20s, you were having experiences. And you got, probably for the most part, whatever it was that you were chasing at that time. Now, you can look back and say, well, I spent too much time chasing, drugs and women. I don't know. But you know what? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with chasing drugs and women if that's what turns you on. I mean, don't hurt yourself or others in the process. But if you got what you were after, then you learned your lesson and now you go on to the next thing. It's just another cycle. It's all good, man. It's all good. It just does not matter that much. And frankly, when you get to the end of life and your life ends, that doesn't matter that much either. Really. The death rate is 100%, guys. 100% of the people that have had the experience of living on planet Earth, 100%, except for the very few that are alive today, they've all died. They've all run out of time. It's just not that big of a deal. It's normal. Don't sweat it. Enjoy now. All the stuff that makes us screwed up psycho-emotionally has to do with fixating on the past or the future. Don't do it. Make now great. Make the present good. Because the truth is, guys, and I'm going to actually end today with this. The truth is, right now, this moment is all you have, and it's all you're ever going to have. So don't envy the guy that's more successful than you. He's just a little further on in his experience. You're going to have that experience. If you chase that experience that's similar to what that guy has, then you will have the same experience. And after you've had it, you're going to go, well, okay, that was cool and everything, but it's not that great. That is, I promise you, that's what you're going to say. Because that's what we do. That's what people do. And it's normal. Okay? So we're all in a different place. And we've all got different goals, and it's all good. And I think this is the collectivist part of me coming out. Some people might say the more liberal part of me, but I believe that we all are manifestly and provably unique, right? We're totally unique. No other person is going to bring the same art or the same voice or the same character or the same personality or the same opinion to the game that you are. So that means we are all equally important. And when the world is basically in balance, we don't have a competition problem, really, because what I do is something that you need from me because I can't do what you can do, but you can't do what I can do. And so we help each other. That's the way the world should work. Now, we have a medium of exchange in between us that makes it work, which is called money. So you pay me to do what I do, and I pay you to do what you do. That's fine, because then we can use the money somewhere else to, buy food or, a new sofa. But at the end of the day, every single person is equally important and valuable because no one else can ever be them. And that's an amazingly cool thing, right? So I think that's a good place to end it today. I hope somebody has found it either inspiring or helpful or whatever. And by the way, thanks for Amar for weighing in with the examples kind of from the urban space, because you're correct. I mean, James Brown, amazing. Michael Jackson, I don't know if I'd put Michael Jackson in that club. Well, we won't get into it now, but Aretha, certainly. The Rolling Stones, absolutely. They sustained it really, really well. Now, I mean, to be fair, once you got past Start Me Up, which I think was probably 1982, once the Stones got past Start Me Up, they never really had another hit. But come on, they were going for, that would give them a career of about 15 years of actually cranking out hits, right? So, Little Richard, same thing. But I mean, but you do have to make a comparison between whether they sustained a career versus whether they were able to keep cranking out hits in the sense that we remember them. If you look at the actual output that everyone remembers as being spectacular, usually it's really encased in just a 2 to 5 year period of time. In almost the vast majority of cases, very few exceptions. There are some, but they're very few. So anyway, okay, thanks for saying thank you, Enio, and thanks for being here. I can't believe I've got 11 viewers. That's more than usual. And you guys have gotten a real glimpse of my inner, my psychology here, how I really look at the world tonight. And it's been fun. So anyway, thanks for being here. As you guys know, there will absolutely be more later. And by the way, thank you too, Maria.